Hi, I'm Tom, and I just recently retired from NASA. I was an engineer who specialized in structural systems. I think of trigonometry as the mathematics of angles, and mathematics is power, and since angles are found everywhere, that's a lot of power, literally. All those sine and cosine functions are used to describe any kind of wave motion, whether waves in the ocean, or sound impinging on a rocket, or radio waves sent out by a communication satellite. Trigonometry was very useful in my job as a structural systems engineer. Here's a typical truss that might be used for a bridge or a launch tower or space station. The trigonometry is needed to determine the forces in each piece and joint to predict stiffness and strength of the whole. Don't want your bridge to fall? Well, you better do the math right, and that includes all those sines and cosines. We use the angles of pitch, roll, and yaw to describe the orientation of an object, like an airplane or a spacecraft. This knowledge lets flight computers set the angles on an airplane's control surfaces, or determine how to point a communications antenna to Earth, or to determine what steering rockets must be fired as a spacecraft enters Earth's atmosphere or Saturn's atmosphere. Here's a picture of a spacecraft currently being developed to fly to the moon in a few years. It will be powered by ion engines using electricity generated from sunlight. By the way, the TIE fighters on Star Wars used ion engines. TIE stands for twin ion engines. For this spacecraft, the big solar wings that convert sunlight to electricity must be rotated at the right angle, and the spacecraft must be rotated to the right orientation to provide the maximum electrical power for the engines. And the engines must be pointed in the right direction to push the spacecraft where it needs to go. If they don't, it will spin out of control or miss its destination. And that all requires trig. Any type of repetitive motion can be described using trig functions. That includes any kind of vibration. Vibration is very important for aircraft and spacecraft, since controlled explosions and spinning hardware tend to drive everything. I call it shake and break. Any repetitive motion can be broken down into sine waves superimposed on each other, and this can be used to diagnose problems in machinery and to predict how long things will last. Things like wings, engines, and spacecraft docking adapters. Maybe also you heard of parallax. Parallax is used to measure the distance to faraway objects without actually going there. See the trig functions in the equations of parallax? A European spacecraft called Gaia has been using these equations to measure distances to stars. Soon it will be doing that to stars halfway across our galaxy. Well, I hope you can see that trigonometry is very powerful and very useful. May this be a sign that you will have fun with class, even if Mr. Polance goes on tangents, or if you guys keep going around in circles.